The last weather report was broadcast 6 years ago. It promised partly cloudy skies and a high of 72 degrees. The meteorologist is still out there somewhere. I saw her last winter, clicking through the ruins of the Channel 4 studio. Her jaw split open like a blooming flower, orange tendrils growing where her tongue used to be. She doesn't do forecasts anymore. The sky forgot how to be blue. I don't say that poetically, I mean it literally. The atmosphere changed after the collapse. After the bombs, they dropped on the major cities trying to contain the outbreak. After the wildfires consumed the Pacific Northwest for 3 straight months. After the infrastructure crumbled and every factory, every refinery, every chemical plant either exploded or leaked its guts into the air. Now the sky is the color of a week-old bruise, purple-gray in the mornings, rust-orange by noon. At night, it's black, but not the clean black of stars, a heavy black, a suffocating black, the kind of darkness that feels like it has weight. The sun still rises, but it looks wrong, swollen, sick, like even the sun caught something from this dying world. I broadcast from a converted NOAA weather station on the bluffs above what used to be the Missouri River. The river is dead. 3 years ago, it stopped flowing. The drought took it first, months without rain, the water table dropping like a stone. Then the corpses came, hundreds of infected, maybe thousands, wandering into the riverbed during the early chaos. They didn't drown, they just accumulated, rotted, merged with the mud. Now the riverbed is a cemetery of cracked earth and bones, catfish skeletons, human skeletons. You can't tell them apart anymore. The ground here doesn't grow food. It grows fungus, Cordyceps, the infection that ended everything. It blooms from every surface now, walls, pavement, flesh, orange and red fruiting bodies that pulse in the humidity. They release spores. The spores get in your lungs. And then you become one of them. The temperature swings are lethal on their own. 115 degrees at noon, near freezing by midnight. The climate broke when civilization broke. No more planes to track weather patterns. No more satellites to predict storms. No more meteorologists to warn you that a dust storm will bury your shelter by morning. You just survive or you don't. Kansas City is visible from my station. On clear days, rare but they happen, I can see the skyline. It looks like a mouth full of broken teeth. The buildings still stand. Concrete and steel don't care about the apocalypse, but they're hollow now, empty, except they're not really empty, are they? The clickers live there, thousands of them. Maybe tens of thousands. They shuffle through the dark corridors of office buildings, hospitals, shopping malls, blind because the fungus grew through their eyes years ago. But their hearing, perfect, terrifying. They navigate by echolocation, clicking that horrible wet click that gives them their name. Drop a glass in downtown Kansas City and you'll have 40 of them on you in 30 seconds. The stalkers are worse, quieter, smarter. They remember just enough of being human to hunt. And the bloaters, I've only seen one, once. I don't want to talk about it, not yet. The government is a memory. FEMA collapsed in month 4. The National Guard was overrun by month 6. The CDC held out the longest, almost 2 years, before their last facility went dark. I know because I was listening. I was always listening. What's left are pockets, fragments. Survivor enclaves hidden in water treatment plants, underground bunkers, converted warehouses with reinforced walls. Some are good people trying to rebuild something. Some are raiders who have decided that the apocalypse means all rules are dead. We communicate by radio. It's the only network the fungus can't corrupt. The spores infect flesh, infect brain tissue, infect everything organic, but they can't infect a frequency. They can't grow through electromagnetic waves. So we talk, we share warnings, we tell each other where the hordes are moving, we lie about having more supplies than we do. We hope. I've heard rumors. A settlement near the Great Lakes where the water is still clean. A community on the Olympic Peninsula where the ocean wind keeps spore counts low. But rumors are dangerous things. They sound like hope. And hope out here will get you killed. My name is Marcus Cole. At least, that's what it used to be. Names feel strange now, like wearing clothes that belonged to someone who died. Marcus Cole was a radio engineer for KCUR Kansas City's public radio station. He had a wife named Dina, a daughter named Sophie, a two-story house in Overland Park with a mortgage he complained about, and a backyard where Sophie learned to ride a bike. Marcus Cole is dead. I'm just the voice now. I don't know what to call myself anymore. Some of the survivors who tune in call me the broadcaster. Others call me Night Watch because I do most of my transmissions after dark, when the clickers are more active and people need to hear something human to remind them they're not alone. A group up near Omaha started calling me Father Static as a joke, and it stuck. I've been called worse. What matters is that I'm still here, still breathing, still talking. 6 years, 2 months. And hold on, let me check the tally marks on my wall. 17 days since the first confirmed case of Cordyceps brain infection in humans. 6 years since the world learned that the fungus that turns ants into zombies had jumped species. 6 years since everything fell apart in slow motion, then all at once. I remember the early news reports. Scientists in Jakarta discovering infected patients with fungal growths emerging from their skulls. The WHO issuing warnings that nobody took seriously. Governments promising containment. Experts saying the infection couldn't survive in human body temperatures. They were wrong. By the time they admitted they were wrong, it was already too late. I was at work when Kansas City fell. Dina called me at 2:47 p.m. I remember the exact time because I was watching the clock, counting down to the end of my shift. She was crying. She said Sophie's school was on lockdown. She said there were things in the hallway. Things that used to be teachers. I told her to stay on the line. I told her I was coming. I never made it. The highways were parking lots of abandoned cars and screaming people. I saw my first infected on I-35. A man in a business suit tearing into a woman's throat with his teeth. I saw my first clicker outside a Costco. Its face split open, the fungal plates covering its eyes, clicking that sound I would learn to fear more than anything else in this world. I found Dina 3 days later. She was in our living room. She wasn't Dina anymore. Sophie was in the backyard, hiding in the playhouse I'd built for her 5th birthday. She was bitten. She knew what that meant, even at 7 years old. She asked me to stay with her until it was over, so I did. And when it was over, when the thing wearing my daughter's body started to move again, started to make sounds that weren't human, I did what I had to do. I don't talk about that part, not on the broadcast, not ever. What I talk about is survival, because that's all I have left. After I buried Sophie, I walked. For weeks, I just walked. I don't remember most of it. I think part of my mind shut down, went somewhere else while my body kept moving on autopilot. I ate whatever I could find. Slept in cars, in basements, in the hollow spaces between buildings where the infected couldn't reach. I should have died 100 times. I didn't. I'm not sure if that's luck or punishment. Eventually, I found this place. The NOAA weather station on the bluffs. It was empty. The staff had evacuated months earlier, probably thinking they'd return once the outbreak was contained. They never came back, but they left behind equipment, generators, solar panels, a broadcast antenna that still worked. And I thought, someone should be talking. Someone should be out there on the airwaves, letting people know they're not the last ones left. So I started broadcasting. At first, I didn't think anyone was listening. I talked anyway. I talked about the weather, like some kind of cosmic joke, a NOAA station still giving weather reports after the world ended. I talked about what I saw from the bluffs, horde movements, smoke on the horizon, safe routes and dangerous zones. Then the responses came. A woman in Lincoln, Nebraska, who'd been hiding in a grain silo for 8 months. She cried when she heard my voice. She said she'd started to think she was the last person on Earth. A group of survivors holed up in a Walmart distribution center outside Topeka. They'd fortified it, set up a hydroponic garden in the warehouse. They wanted to know about clicker patrol patterns west of the city. A kid, have been older than 15, broadcasting from somewhere in Iowa. He never gave his location, never gave his name. He just wanted someone to talk to. I haven't heard from him in 3 months. I try not to think about what that means. They're why I keep going, not hope. I don't believe in hope anymore. Hope is for people who haven't watched their daughter's skull split open from the inside. Hope is for people who haven't learned what a human face sounds like when the fungus pushes through the eye sockets. What I have is responsibility. Someone has to keep the signal alive. Someone has to be the voice in the darkness, the proof that humanity isn't completely gone. Someone has to track the hordes, warn the settlements, guide the lost, and the desperate toward whatever fragments of safety still exist. I'm not a hero. Heroes died in the first wave trying to save everyone. I'm just stubborn, too stubborn to stop, too tired to die. My days follow a rhythm now. I wake before dawn, check the solar panels, run diagnostics on the equipment. I spend the mornings scanning frequencies, listening for other broadcasts, making notes about horde movements and settlement reports. Afternoons are for maintenance. There's always something breaking, always something that needs repair. I've taught myself more about electrical engineering in 6 years than I learned in 20 years of professional work. Evenings are for scavenging when I have to. I've mapped every building within a 5-mile radius. I know which ones are clear, which ones have clickers in the basement, which ones might still have useful supplies. I move quiet, I move careful. I haven't fired my gun in 8 months because gunfire attracts them. You learn to survive with a knife, a crowbar, and the knowledge that if they hear you, you're already dead. Nights are for broadcasting. That's when people need it most. When the darkness closes in, and every sound outside could be one of them. When the loneliness becomes so thick, you can barely breathe. That's when I turn on the microphone and I talk. I talk about what I've seen. I talk about the old world sometimes when the memories don't hurt too much. I talk about the survival reports, the safe zones, the dangers to avoid. And sometimes, when it's very late and I'm very tired, I talk about Sophie. Not what happened to her, never that, but who she was, her laugh, the way she mispronounced spaghetti, how she used to put band-aids on her stuffed animals because she wanted to be a doctor when she grew up. She never got to grow up. But I remember her, and as long as I'm broadcasting, as long as someone is listening, she's not completely gone. None of them are. That's the thing about being a voice in the static. You carry the dead with you. Every name, every story, every person who tuned in and then went silent. They're all part of the broadcast now. Part of me. I am the last witness, and I will keep talking until the signal dies, or until I do, whichever comes first. Listen to me. If you're tuned in, if you're out there, I need you to understand something. It's getting worse. Not slowly, not gradually. It's getting worse fast, and I don't know how much longer any of us can hold on. When the outbreak first hit, we thought the infected were the only enemy. Kill the clickers, avoid the bloaters, outrun the runners. Stay quiet, stay smart, stay alive. Simple math. Terrible, bloody math, but simple. We were naive. The infected aren't the only thing killing us anymore. The world itself has turned hostile. The climate, the weather, the very air we breathe. It's like the Earth looked at what we'd done, the bombs, the fires, the collapse of every system that kept this planet stable, and decided to finish the job the fungus started. Let me tell you what I'm dealing with right now, today, this hour. My water reserves are down to 11 gallons. That sounds like a lot until you understand that I need a minimum of half a gallon per day just to survive. More in summer when the temperatures hit triple digits. 11 gallons gives me 22 days, maybe less, because I need water for the cooling system on my broadcast equipment. The transmitter runs hot. Without coolant, it overheats. Without the transmitter, I can't broadcast. Without the broadcast, I'm just a man dying alone on a hill. The filtration unit I've been using for 3 years, a modified Berkey system I scavenged from a doomsday prepper's basement in Lenexa, cracked last night. Hairline fracture in the ceramic filter. I tried to seal it with epoxy. It didn't hold, which means the water I've been collecting from the morning fog, the only reliable moisture source in a land that hasn't seen rain in 37 months, is no longer safe to drink. 37 months without rain. I want you to understand what that means. I want you to really grasp it. Before the outbreak, Kansas received an average of 35 inches of precipitation per year. Snow, rain, the occasional ice storm that shut down the highways. Water fell from the sky on a regular basis. We complained about it, too much rain in spring, not enough in summer. We had no idea how lucky we were. The last measurable rainfall in this region was September 14th, 3 years ago. I know the exact date because I marked it on my calendar. I stood outside and let it hit my face and I cried, because even then I knew it might be the last time. It was barely a quarter inch. The ground was so dry it absorbed every drop in minutes. Since then, nothing. The jet stream shifted after the infrastructure collapse. When the power plants went offline, when the factories stopped pumping emissions, you'd think the atmosphere would stabilize. The opposite happened. The sudden change disrupted weather patterns that had been locked in for decades. The particulates we'd been pumping into the air had actually been reflecting some solar radiation back into space, a phenomenon called global dimming. When that stopped, temperatures spiked. The Midwest became a furnace. And the fungus loves heat. Cordyceps thrives in warm, humid environments. That's why the initial outbreak spread fastest in tropical regions, Southeast Asia, Central America, Central Africa. But as global temperatures climbed, the infection zone expanded. The fungus adapted, evolved. The strain we're dealing with now can survive in conditions that would have killed the original pathogen. The heat accelerates their life cycle. Infected turn faster. Clickers mature into bloaters in half the time they used to. And the spores stay airborne longer when the air is dry. They travel farther, concentrate more densely. I'm watching it happen in real time from this station. The horde patterns are changing. The infected used to cluster near water sources, rivers, lakes, reservoirs. That's where the surviving humans gathered, so that's where the infected hunted. But now the water is gone, the rivers are dust, and the hordes are moving. 3 weeks ago, I tracked a column of clickers migrating east from Topeka. Over 2,000 of them clicking their way across the dead plains in a loose formation that stretched for miles. They weren't hunting, they were searching, moving towards something. Maybe they sense moisture the way animals sense approaching storms. Maybe the fungus has developed some kind of collective navigation. I don't know. What I know is that they're heading toward the settlements near the Missouri border. The ones that still have functioning wells. I broadcast warnings. I don't know if anyone received them. I don't know if it matters. The survivors I'm in contact with are struggling as badly as I am. Maybe worse. Elena's group in Omaha went dark last week. She'd been broadcasting every night for 14 months. Weather reports, supply inventories, morale-boosting messages for anyone who needed them. She had 17 people in her compound, including 4 children. They'd converted an old water treatment plant into a fortress, thick concrete walls, industrial filtration, a solar array that kept the lights on. Last transmission I got from her, she was reporting that the filtration system had been compromised. Fungal contamination in the pipes. One of her people had been drinking infected water for 3 days before they noticed the symptoms. By then, it was too late. The internal infection had already begun. She said they were going to try to evacuate. Head south toward a rumored settlement in Oklahoma. I told her not to. The southern routes are death traps, bloater nests in every overpass, raider gangs controlling the major highways. And the heat down there is even worse than here, sustained temperatures above 120 degrees for weeks at a time. Your body can't survive that without constant hydration. And if you don't have water, she went anyway. What choice did she have? I haven't heard from her since. Then there's Jackson, former National Guard sergeant who runs a small group of survivors out of a converted grain elevator near Lincoln. Hard man, practical. The kind of person who makes the ugly decisions because someone has to. He's been rationing his people to a 1/4 gallon of water per day, far below what a human body needs to function. He says it's temporary. He says they're looking for a new source, but I can hear the desperation in his voice when he broadcasts. The rasp of someone whose throat is too dry to speak properly. Last week, he asked me about the settlements up north. The rumors about the Great Lakes. I told him what I tell everyone. It's probably a myth, false hope to keep people moving until they drop. Even if the settlements exist, the journey is hundreds of miles through territory we haven't mapped. through infected zones we haven't scouted, through climate conditions that range from furnace hot to freezing, sometimes in the same day. He said he doesn't have a choice. He says they'll be out of water in 2 weeks, no matter how much they ration. He says he'd rather die walking toward something than sit still and wait for the end. I couldn't argue with him because I'm facing the same math. 72 hours, maybe less. That's how long my reserves will last. Then I have to make a decision. I can unseal the station, open the doors, breathe the air, hope the spore count has dropped to survivable levels. I have masks, military-grade respirators I scavenged from a FEMA depot 2 years ago. They're rated for biological contaminants, but rated by whom? For what concentration? No one tested these things against Cordyceps spore clouds. No one had time to run those studies before the researchers became infected themselves. Or I can stay sealed in, conserve my water, reduce my broadcasting to once a day, then once every 2 days, then silence, wait for the spores outside to disperse naturally, hope that someone finds me before dehydration finishes what the fungus couldn't. Neither option is good. But that's life now, choosing between terrible and worse. The environmental collapse compounds everything. The drought isn't just killing us directly, it's destroying the ecosystems we need to survive. The animals are dying. I haven't seen a deer in 18 months. The rabbits are gone. Even the insects are scarce. The food chain is collapsing from the bottom up, and we're at the top with nothing left to eat. I've been surviving on canned goods mostly. The prepper in Lenexa had an impressive stockpile, enough to last one person roughly 5 years if rationed carefully. But canned food is heavy. I can only carry so much when I scavenge. And the places that haven't been picked clean are getting farther and farther away, more dangerous to reach. Last month, I ran into a group I hadn't encountered before. 4 men, armed, traveling along the dry riverbed, not infected. Human, which made them more dangerous in some ways. They saw my tracks leading back toward the station. They followed. I watched them from the observation deck as they circled the perimeter. They didn't try to break in, not yet. They were scouting, assessing, counting the solar panels, looking at the antenna, doing the math. One of them looked up at the station and smiled, not a friendly smile, the kind of smile that says we'll be back. They left heading west. I haven't seen them since, but I will. People like that, they don't forget. They're patient. They know that eventually I'll have to come out. Eventually everyone has to come out. The rules have changed since the early days. Back then, survivors helped each other, shared resources, banded together against the common enemy. There was an unspoken code. Humans don't hurt humans. We're all that's left. That code is dead now. Resources are too scarce. Trust is too expensive. I've heard broadcasts from settlements that have turned away refugees at gunpoint. I've heard about groups that hunt other survivors for their supplies, not because they're evil, because they're desperate. Because when you haven't had clean water in a week, morality becomes theoretical. I don't know if I'm any different. I don't know what I'd do if someone tried to take this station. Tried to take my transmitter, my solar panels, my water. I know what I tell myself I'd do, reason with them, share, find a compromise, but I also know what I've become in 6 years of surviving, the parts of me that have hardened, the parts that have died. Sophie used to ask me why some people were mean. I told her that everyone has good inside them, you just have to find it. I believed that once. Now I keep a loaded shotgun by the door, so that's the crisis, that's what we are facing. The infected are evolving, the climate is collapsing, the water is running out, and the survivors are turning on each other. 6 years ago, we thought we just had to outlast the initial wave, hold on until the government regrouped, wait for the scientists to find a cure, survive the immediate chaos and rebuild. We were wrong. This isn't a wave, it's a tide, and it's still rising. I'm going to keep broadcasting for as long as I can, keep warning you about horde movements, keep sharing whatever information might help you survive another day. But I need you to understand something. I don't know if there's a way out of this. I don't know if any of us are going to make it. All I know is that we have to keep trying, because the alternative is giving up. And giving up means they win. The fungus, the heat, the despair, I won't let them win. Not today, tomorrow, we'll see. Tomorrow is a lifetime away. Day 4 of lockdown. Spore count outside is still lethal. I've been running the numbers over and over, and they keep coming up the same. I'm not going to make it. Not like this. Not sealed in here, watching my water disappear gallon by gallon while the air outside slowly clears. The math doesn't work. I'll die of dehydration before the spores disperse enough to breathe safely. Simple as that. But there's something else happening. Something that changes the equation. Last night, around 300, I picked up a transmission on frequency 94.3. That's my backup channel, the one I use for emergency communications with settlements that know to listen. I wasn't expecting traffic. Elena's group is gone. Jackson's people are moving north. Most of the regular contacts have gone silent over the past month, but someone was broadcasting, a woman's voice, clear signal, which means close, within 50 miles, maybe less. She was speaking in clipped, professional tones, military cadence, the kind of pattern you don't forget once you've heard it. She wasn't talking to me, she didn't even know I was listening. She was talking to someone called Firefly Command. That name, Firefly, I've heard it before, whispers on the frequencies, rumors passed between settlements, a group supposedly that's working on something, a cure, a vaccine, some kind of answer to the infection that's been destroying us for 6 years. Most people think they're a myth, a fairy tale survivors tell each other to keep the despair at bay. I've never had any proof they exist. Until now, the woman was reporting coordinates, supply levels, personnel status. She mentioned a primary research site somewhere in Colorado. She talked about viable samples and breakthrough protocols. She used terms I didn't fully understand, immunological terminology, laboratory procedures. And then she said something that made my blood freeze. She said they need a broadcast station. Their communications equipment was damaged in a storm. They've lost contact with their other cells. They need a functioning long-range transmitter to coordinate the next phase of their operation. And according to their intelligence, there's only one operational civilian broadcast station left in the central region. She gave the coordinates, my coordinates. They're coming here. I should be relieved. I should be celebrating. If the Fireflies are real, if they're actually working on a cure, then this is the most important thing that's happened since the outbreak began. This is hope, real hope, not the desperate fantasies we've been clinging to. But I've lived too long in this world to trust hope. Because here's what I know about the Fireflies: nothing verified, nothing confirmed. I've heard they're scientists working to save humanity. I've also heard they're a militant group that kills anyone who gets in their way. I've heard they have a cure that actually works. I've also heard they've been experimenting on people, cutting open survivors to study their brains. Rumors, all rumors. And in this world, rumors are more likely to get you killed than informed. The woman on the radio didn't sound like a monster. She sounded professional, dedicated, the kind of person who believes in what she's doing. But so did the people who dropped bombs on the quarantine zones. So did the ones who sealed families inside their homes and let them starve because it was for the greater good. Good intentions don't mean anything anymore, not when resources are scarce. Not when survival requires choices that would have seemed unthinkable before. If I let them in, if I open this station to a group I don't know, can't verify, and can't control, I'm gambling everything, my equipment, my supplies, my life, on the word of a stranger. And there's another problem. They're not the only ones who heard that transmission. Remember those men I mentioned, the raiders who circled the station last month? They're back. I spotted them this morning through the observation scope. 4 of them, same as before, camped about half a mile east in the ruins of an old farmhouse. They've got a vehicle now, some kind of modified truck with steel plates welded to the sides. They've been watching the station all day, waiting. They heard the Firefly transmission too. They must have. That frequency isn't encrypted. Anyone with a working radio could have picked it up. So now they know the Fireflies are coming, and they know the Fireflies need this station. The question is, what's their play? Option 1, they hit me before the Fireflies arrive. Take the station, set up an ambush, and either kill the fireflies or negotiate from a position of strength. That's the smart move if they're thinking strategically. Option 2, they wait. Let the fireflies do the hard work of clearing the area, let them bring in supplies and personnel, and then hit both of us when we're vulnerable. More risk, but bigger reward. Option 3, and this is the one that scares me most, they've already made contact with the fireflies. Cut a deal. Maybe they're providing security. Maybe they're selling information. Maybe the woman on the radio knows exactly who's watching this station and has already factored them into her plans. I don't know which option is real. I don't have enough information, and I don't have time to gather more. My water is down to 6 gallons. The spore count outside has dropped, but not enough. I've got maybe 48 hours before I have to unseal the doors, regardless of what's waiting for me. 48 hours to decide who I'm going to trust. The fireflies, who might be saviors or might be butchers. The raiders, who definitely aren't saviors, but at least I know what they want, or nobody. Seal the doors, ration the water, and die alone in this station with nothing but static for company. Some choice. You know what I keep thinking about? Sophie's bike. That red bicycle with the white streamers. Training wheels that she insisted we remove on her 6th birthday because she was a big girl now. I must have spent 20 hours in that backyard, running alongside her, keeping my hand on the seat, promising I wouldn't let go. And then the moment I did let go, the moment she realized she was riding on her own, the look on her face, terror and joy mixed together the way only a child can manage. She crashed, of course, scraped her knee pretty badly. But she got back on, she always got back on. I think about that when I'm trying to decide whether to trust people. Sophie trusted me not to let her fall, and I didn't until I did. Until the world changed, and nothing I could do was enough to protect her. I let her down in the worst possible way. Since then, I've kept everyone at a distance. The survivors I talk to on the radio, they're just voices. They're not real in the way that matters. I can help them, warn them, share information with them, but I don't have to trust them. I don't have to let them in. Letting people in means risking loss. Means risking that moment when they look at you with betrayal in their eyes because you couldn't save them. But keeping everyone out means dying alone. And I'm so tired of being alone. Something's happening. The raiders are on the move. Their truck just fired up, heading north, away from the station. That doesn't make sense. Unless, wait, there's a new signal on 94.3, the Firefly woman again. She's broadcasting an update, coordinates. They're closer than I thought. She says they'll reach the station by tomorrow morning. First light. She's requesting I respond, confirm the station is operational, confirm I'm willing to cooperate. The raiders heard this. They must have. They're pulling back because they don't want to be caught between me and the Fireflies. Or they're repositioning for something bigger. Or it's a trap. The woman's voice, the Firefly codes, all of it fabricated by the raiders to get me to open my doors. How would I even know? How do you verify anything anymore when everyone has a reason to lie? I'm going to respond. I have to, even if it's a mistake. Because the alternative is sitting here in silence, watching my water run out, waiting for a death that's already written. If there's even a chance the Fireflies are real, if there's even a small possibility that they're working on something that could end this nightmare, I have to take that chance. Sophie would take that chance. She always got back on the bike. Maybe I can too. This is Nightwatch on emergency frequency. If anyone is listening, if anyone is still out there, everything is falling apart. I unsealed the station at 600, just like I promised. The spore count had dropped to marginally survivable levels, still dangerous, but with a respirator and limited exposure time, I could risk it. I stood at that door for 10 minutes, mask on, shotgun in hand, listening to the silence outside. The silence should have warned me. I opened the door. The air hit me first, thick, humid, tasting of rot and earth. The sky was that same bruised purple, the sun just starting to bleed over the horizon. I scanned the perimeter. No movement, no clickers, no raiders, just the dead landscape and the wind scraping over broken concrete. I took 3 steps outside. That's when the first shot rang out. The bullet hit the solar panel array, shattering 2 panels in a spray of glass and silicon. I dropped, scrambled back toward the door. Another shot, this one ricocheting off the metal railing. I made it inside, slammed the door shut, my heart trying to punch through my ribs. The raiders, they hadn't left. They'd repositioned, set up a sniper post in the ruins about 400 yards east, and they weren't shooting to kill, not yet. They were shooting to pin me down, keep me inside. I grabbed my radio, tried to reach the fireflies. Static. Then Night Watch Firefly Actual, we are 2 miles out. We heard the shots. What's your status? Hostile contact. Sniper position, eastern approach. You're walking into an ambush. Copy that. We are combat ready. Can you provide covering fire? I almost laughed. Covering fire? I'm a radio engineer, not a soldier. I've got a shotgun that's useful at maybe 50 feet and a hunting rifle I haven't fired in 2 years because I can't afford to waste ammunition. Negative. I'm pinned down. I can't. Another transmission cut in. Different voice. Male. Rough attention Firefly unit. This is the Missouri River settlement. That station belongs to us. You're trespassing on claimed territory. Turn back or we will engage. The raiders, broadcasting on an open channel, claiming ownership. Trying to scare the Fireflies off or draw them into a fight. Marlene's response was ice cold. This is Firefly Actual. We don't recognize territorial claims. We are here for the broadcast equipment and we're not leaving without it. You have one chance to stand down. Then I guess we're doing this the hard way. That's when the real shooting started. I watched through the observation scope as the Firefly's vehicle, a converted armored truck, came barreling down the access road. The raiders opened up from their position, muzzle flashes lighting up the pre-dawn darkness. Rounds pinged off the truck's armor. The Fireflies returned fire, controlled bursts from what looked like military-grade weapons. This wasn't a scavenging dispute. This was a war. The truck skidded to a stop behind a concrete barricade about 100 yards from the station. Doors opened. People poured out, 6 of them, moving with tactical precision. They weren't scientists. They were soldiers. Marlene's voice came over the radio again. Night Watch, we're taking heavy fire. We need you to unseal that door. We are coming in. Negative. You'll draw them straight to the station. We don't have a choice. We've got wounded, and a massive explosion cut her off. The raiders had thrown a grenade or an IED. The shockwave rattled the station windows. When the smoke cleared, one of the Fireflies wasn't moving. Then I heard it, clicking, faint at first, then louder, multiple sources, coming from the south, from the riverbed, from the ruins of the city. The infected, the gunfire had drawn them. Dozens of them, maybe hundreds. Cease fire, Marlene was screaming into her radio. Cease fire, you're calling the infected down on all of us. But the raiders didn't stop. Either they didn't care or they thought they could handle both threats. Idiots, I watched through the scope as the first clickers emerged from the riverbed. Then more, then the runners, emaciated, fast, attracted by the noise and movement. They didn't discriminate. They went for the raiders first, the closer target. The shooting shifted. Now the raiders were firing in 2 directions, at the Fireflies and at the infected. The sound was deafening even from inside the station. Every shot was a dinner bell calling more of them. Marlene's voice, desperate now. Night Watch, please, we have to get inside. We have the girl, the immune girl, she's here, she's with us, and if we don't get to cover in the next 60 seconds, she's going to die. The girl, the cure. Humanity's last hope, if Marlene was telling the truth. Or a lie, a manipulation, using my hope against me to get me to open that door. I looked at my water supply. 4 gallons, enough for me, just me. If I let them in, I'd have to share. 7 more people, minimum, maybe more. The water would last 2 days, maybe 3 if we rationed brutally. And that's assuming they left afterward. Assuming they didn't just take the station, take my supplies, and leave me to die. Through the scope, I could see them now. The Fireflies pinned down behind their truck, the raiders being overrun by infected. And they're being pulled along by a woman with close-cropped hair, a girl, teenager, brown jacket. She was looking toward the station. Sophie was 7 when she died. This girl looked about 14. The age shouldn't matter, but it did. I'm standing at the door. My hand is on the seal release, and I'm thinking about a red bicycle with white streamers. I'm thinking about how I promised Sophie I wouldn't let her fall, and then I did. I let her fall in the worst possible way. I held her while the fungus grew through her brain, and I couldn't stop it. I couldn't save her. I've spent 6 years keeping everyone at a distance because I couldn't survive that pain again. Couldn't survive caring about someone and watching them die. It was easier to be alone, safer, but Sophie didn't die alone. She died in my arms, knowing she was loved, knowing someone was there. This girl, this stranger who might be immune, who might be a lie, she's about to die out there. And if she dies, she'll die knowing that someone had the power to save her and chose not to. Could I live with that? Could I look at myself in the mirror, if mirrors still existed, knowing I had a chance to help and I chose survival instead? Outside, the clicking is getting louder. The screams are getting worse. A bloater has emerged from somewhere, its massive fungal body shambling toward the chaos. If it explodes, the spore cloud will blanket the entire area. Everyone dies. The fireflies, the raiders, the girl. Maybe even me if the ventilation system can't keep it out. Marlene's voice one last time. Nightwatch, Marcus, please. Her name is Ellie. She's 14 years old. She's immune. She's real. This is real. Please don't let her die because you're afraid to trust. How does she know my name? I never told her my name, but it doesn't matter now. What matters is the choice. I'm opening the door, not because I trust them. Not because I believe in the cure. Not because I think this will save humanity. I'm opening it because a 14-year-old girl is about to die, and I have the power to stop it. I'm opening it because Sophie would want me to. I'm opening it because I'm tired of being the man who survives by letting others die. The door swings wide. I step out, shotgun raised. FIAFLIES, move now, they run. All of them laying down, covering fire, dragging their wounded. The girl, Ellie, is fast, her eyes wide but focused. She's been through this before. She knows how to survive. The infected are 20 yards behind them. 15, 10, inside. Go, they pour through the door. 1, 2, 5, 6. Marlene last, turning to fire 3 more shots before diving inside. I grab the door. A clicker is right there, right fucking there, close enough to touch. Its faceplate's open, clicking that horrible sound. Reaching, I slam the door. Engage the seal, lock it down. We're inside, all of us, breathing hard, covered in dust and blood. Outside, the infected swarm the station. I can hear them hitting the walls, the door, scratching and clicking and moaning. Inside, 7 strangers with guns are standing in my home, and I have 4 gallons of water. Thanks for opening the door. I know that wasn't easy. I look at her. Ellie, brown hair, freckles, a scar over her right eyebrow, 14 years old. Immune, supposedly. She looks nothing like Sophie. She looks exactly like Sophie. Don't thank me yet, I say. We are trapped in here with a horde outside and enough water for maybe 3 days. This might be the stupidest thing I've ever done. Marlene steps forward. Older woman, maybe 50, with the eyes of someone who's made too many hard choices. She extends her hand. Marcus Cole, I'm Marlene, thank you for trusting us. I don't take her hand, not yet. Tell me the truth, all of it. Is she really immune? Do you really have a cure? Or did I just die for nothing? Marlene doesn't look away. She's immune, that part's true, the cure. We think we can make one, but we need to get her to our lab. We need your transmitter to coordinate extraction. And we need time we don't have. No, we don't. Outside, the bloater explodes. Even through the sealed door, I can hear it, a wet, massive detonation. The spore cloud will be everywhere now. We're not leaving this station for days, maybe weeks. 4 gallons of water, 7 people. The math is brutal, but I made my choice. I opened the door. Now I have to live with what comes next. The sun came up this morning, the same way it has for the past week, and a half, slow, reluctant, painting the sky that same sickly orange. Through the observation window, I can see the infected scattered across the grounds below. Not as many as before. The horde has dispersed somewhat, the ones that didn't starve wandering back toward the city, following some instinct I don't understand and never will. The bloater explosion left a visible spore cloud for 3 days, a mushroom of orange death hanging in the air, drifting east on the wind. I watched it through the sealed windows and thought about everyone downwind. The settlements I've been in contact with, The survivors hiding in basements and water towers. That cloud probably killed dozens of people who had nothing to do with our fight. That's on me. I opened the door. I made the choice that led to the gunfight, that drew the horde, that brought the bloater. Marlene says I'm being irrational. She says the raiders started the shooting. She says the bloater would have wandered through eventually regardless. She says I saved Ellie's life, and that's what matters. Maybe she's right. Doesn't stop the guilt. The water situation resolved itself in a way I didn't expect. Turned out the fireflies weren't just soldiers. One of them, a quiet man named Tommy, used to be a civil engineer. He took one look at my condensation collection system and redesigned it in 6 hours. Used components from their vehicle's cooling system, some copper tubing I'd been saving for repairs, and principles I barely understand. Now we're pulling almost a gallon a day from atmospheric moisture. It's not much, not enough for 7 people to be comfortable, but it's enough to survive, enough to make the math less brutal. We are rationed to 6 ounces of water per person per day for drinking, another 6 for food prep and hygiene. It's not comfortable. My lips are cracked. My throat is constantly dry, but I'm not dying. None of us are dying. Not from dehydration, anyway. The infected are still the primary concern. There are maybe 30 clickers circulating around the station at any given time. They're persistent. Every few hours, one of them bumps against the door or scratches at the walls. Testing, searching, the fungus is patient. It doesn't get frustrated or give up. It just keeps trying. We've been broadcasting, though. That's the important part. Marlene spent the first 2 days on the transmitter, coordinating with firefly cells across the country. She used encryption protocols I'd never seen before, frequency hopping, coded language, burst transmissions that lasted only seconds. Military-grade communications that made my civilian broadcasting look like children playing with tin cans and string. She made contact with their main facility in Colorado, confirmed that the research team is still operational, still working on synthesizing a vaccine based on Ellie's immunity. They need samples, blood, tissue, possibly cerebrospinal fluid. They need Ellie in that lab within the next 30 days, or the window of opportunity closes. The fungal mutations are accelerating. If they don't crack this soon, the infection will evolve past the point where Ellie's immunity provides useful data. 30 days. That's the timeline for saving humanity. And we're trapped in a radio station in Missouri with a horde outside and no clear path to Colorado. The irony isn't lost on me. I've gotten to know them over the past 11 days. You can't live in close quarters with 6 strangers without learning who they are, without seeing past the soldier exterior to the people underneath. Marlene is exactly what she seemed like on the radio, a true believer. She talks about the cure like it's a certainty, not a possibility. She's already planning for after, already thinking about distribution networks, survivor outreach, rebuilding infrastructure. I think she has to believe it's possible, because if she stops believing, she'll have to confront all the things she's done in pursuit of this cure. The people she's sacrificed, the moral lines she's crossed. I don't judge her for it. We've all crossed lines. The apocalypse doesn't leave room for clean hands. Tommy, the engineer, barely talks, but he works constantly. When he's not improving our water system, he's reinforcing the doors, repairing equipment, finding solutions to problems I didn't know we had. He reminds me of myself before, the version of Marcus who solved problems instead of running from them. There are 4 others. Maria, the medic who stitched up the wounded after the firefight. James and Riley, both former military, who take shifts watching the perimeter. And Kevin, who died on day 3 from an infected bite we didn't notice until it was too late. We locked him in the storage room when he started to turn, listened to him change for 6 hours. The sounds he made weren't human by the end. When it was over, when the clicking started, we sealed the door with steel plates and moved everything we needed out of that room. We don't talk about Kevin, but we all hear him sometimes, late at night, clicking and scratching on the other side of that door. 6 of us now, not 7. And then there's Ellie. She's not like Sophie, not really. Sophie was gentle, curious, afraid of the dark and spiders and the basement furnace. Ellie is hard, sharp-edged. The apocalypse raised her. She doesn't remember the before times. She was born after the outbreak, grew up in a quarantine zone, learned to survive before she learned to read. But there are moments, small ones, when she laughs at something stupid Riley says, when she sketches in a notebook she carries, drawing the world as she imagines it used to be. When she asks me questions about radio waves and broadcast technology with genuine curiosity. In those moments, I see Sophie, not because they're similar, but because they're both just kids. Kids who deserved better than the world we gave them. Yesterday, she showed me the bite. I'd heard about it, of course. Marlene had mentioned it, but seeing it was different. Her right forearm, just below the elbow. 3 parallel gashes, partially healed but still visible. The skin around it is discolored, not the angry red of infection, but a pale, mottled pattern like scarring. I could see where the fungus had tried to take root. Could see the small, calcified remnants where Cordyceps growth had started and then stopped, died, rejected by her immune system. 3 years ago, she said, I was 11, thought I was dead for sure. What happened? Nothing. I mean, I got sick for a few days, fever, headaches, but then it just went away. The bite healed, I didn't turn, and the fireflies found out. I told them, figured it was important, you know. That I was different. She laughed, but it wasn't a happy sound. Didn't realize it would turn me into a lab rat. You're not a lab rat, you're a person. I'm both, that's the problem. She's right, she is both. A 14-year-old girl who likes comic books and terrible puns, and also humanity's last, best chance at survival. Those two things don't coexist easily. The weight of it shows sometimes in her eyes. She carries the world on her shoulders and pretends it doesn't hurt. I know something about that kind of weight. That night, I told her about Sophie, not the end. Not the infection and the burial, just who she was, the bike, the band-aids on stuffed animals, the dream of being a doctor. Ellie listened, really listened. And when I finished, she said, I'm sorry you lost her, but I'm glad she had you. It was the first time in 6 years that someone acknowledged Sophie without pity, without the awkward silence that follows grief. Just recognition. She existed, she mattered, she was loved. Something cracked open in my chest. Something I'd been keeping sealed for years. I cried. For the first time since I buried her, I cried. And Ellie sat there, this kid who's seen more horror than anyone should, and she just stayed, didn't try to fix it, didn't look away. Just stayed. Maybe that's what hope looks like. Not a cure, not a settlement, not salvation, just someone who stays. Wait, is that it's raining? I'm looking out the window right now, and I'm seeing something I haven't seen in 37 months. Water falling from the sky, actual rain. It's not much. A light drizzle, barely enough to darken the concrete, but it's real. I can see it hitting the solar panels, see it creating tiny rivulets through the dust. Tommy is already moving, grabbing containers, setting up collection systems. If this lasts even 20 minutes, we could gather gallons, enough to ease the rationing, enough to breathe a little easier. The infected don't react to rain. They just stand there, getting wet, clicking and swaying. But the rain does something to the spore clouds, weighs them down, pulls them out of the air. Within an hour, the visibility outside has improved. The orange haze that's been hanging over everything begins to clear. Marlene is on the radio immediately, reporting this to the Colorado team, asking if it's an isolated cell or part of a larger weather pattern. They don't know. Their meteorological data is spotty, but they confirm that rainfall has been increasing in some regions, small amounts, unpredictable, but measurable. Maybe the climate isn't broken forever. Maybe the Earth is trying to heal itself, slowly, imperfectly, but trying. Or maybe this is just a fluke, one storm that will be followed by another 3 years of drought. I don't know. I can't predict the future anymore. None of us can, but I'm watching rain fall on a dead river, and for the first time in a long time, I'm allowing myself to think that maybe, just maybe, not everything is lost. We've been making plans. Contingencies for when the horde disperses enough to move. The Fireflies have a contact in Wichita who can provide vehicles and supplies. From there, it's a week-long journey to Colorado if the roads are clear, 2 weeks if they're not. Marlene asked me to come with them. Said they could use someone with my technical skills. Said the facility in Colorado needs broadcast engineers, people who can build communication networks. I haven't answered yet. Part of me wants to stay. This station has been my home, my purpose, my connection to the world for 6 years. Leaving feels like abandoning Sophie all over again. But another part of me, the part that opened the door, knows that staying here is just another way of giving up. The world is bigger than this hill. The work is bigger than this broadcast. Sophie would want me to go. She'd want me to help, to be part of something that might actually save people instead of just warning them about dangers they can't avoid. I think I'm going to say yes, not because I believe in the cure with Marlene's certainty, not because I trust that everything will work out, but because I'm tired of surviving alone, tired of keeping the world at a distance, tired of choosing safety over connection. I opened the door, and maybe I need to keep it open to anyone listening, to the settlements in Lincoln and Omaha, to the survivors in the water towers and the bunkers and the fortified Walmarts. To Jackson, if you made it north. To Alina, if you somehow survived. To the kid in Iowa who stopped broadcasting 3 months ago, I hope you're just lying low. I hope you're okay. This is Night Watch, Marcus Cole. Broadcasting from the Missouri River NOAA station for the last time. It's been 14 days since I opened the door. 14 days since I made the choice that changed everything. The horde has dispersed. The spore count is dropping. The rain that started 3 days ago hasn't stopped. It's not much, just a persistent drizzle, but it's enough. Enough to clear the air, enough to collect water, enough to remind us that the sky still remembers how to cry. We're leaving at first light. Me, Marlene, Ellie, and what's left of the Firefly team. We're heading west, then north, toward Colorado and a laboratory that might hold the key to ending this nightmare. It's a long shot. The roads are dangerous. The journey is brutal. The chances of us making it are, well, I'm a numbers guy and the numbers aren't great, but I'm going anyway, because I've spent 6 years surviving and I'm tired of just surviving. I want to live. I want to be part of something bigger than my own fear. I want to believe that what we do still matters. And maybe, just maybe it does. Before I sign off, I need to tell you some things. Things I've learned, things I wish someone had told me 6 years ago when the world was ending and I thought I was ending with it. First, you are not alone. I know it feels that way sometimes. I know the silence is so loud it drowns out everything else. I know the darkness makes you think you're the last person left on Earth. But you're not. There are others out there, still fighting, still breathing, still hoping. You just have to reach out. You just have to keep the signal alive. Second, trust is terrifying. I know. I spent 6 years avoiding it, keeping everyone at a distance because distance is safe. Because caring about people means risking loss, and loss is the most painful thing in this world. But isolation is its own kind of death. Slower, quieter, just as final. Sometimes you have to open the door. Sometimes you have to let people in, even when every instinct screams at you not to. Third, hope is not a weakness. It's not naive or stupid or dangerous. It's the thing that keeps us human when everything around us is trying to turn us into monsters. Hope doesn't mean pretending things are okay. It means acknowledging how bad things are and choosing to fight anyway. It means getting back on the bike even after you fall. Sophie taught me that, my daughter. She died 6 years ago, and I've been carrying her ghost ever since. But I'm starting to understand something. She's not a weight I have to carry. She's a light I get to follow. Every choice I make to help someone, to connect, to keep going, that's her. That's the part of her that survived. The dead stay with us, not as ghosts, as guideposts, reminding us who we used to be and who we still can be. I'm leaving the station operational. The solar panels are functional. The transmitter is set to broadcast an automated message on a loop, coordinates of safe zones, horde movements, weather patterns. If you find this place, if you make it here, you can use it. Broadcast your own messages, keep the signal alive. There's a notebook in the control room, 6 years of observations, clicker behavior patterns, survival tactics, resources I've mapped, settlements I've contacted. It's not much, but it's everything I know, everything I've learned. Use it, add to it, pass it on. And if you find the storage room sealed with steel plates, don't open it. Trust me on this one. The water condensation system Tommy built is still running. Maintenance instructions are taped to the wall. The generator has maybe 6 months of fuel left if you're careful. The food supplies are limited, but there are maps to scavenging sites that haven't been completely picked clean. This station kept me alive for 6 years. Maybe it can do the same for you. I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know if we'll make it to Colorado. I don't know if Ellie's immunity will lead to a cure or just another dead end. I don't know if the rain will continue or if this is just a brief reprieve before another 3 years of drought. I don't know if humanity has a future, but I know we have today. And today I'm choosing to believe that what we do matters, that the connections we make, the people we help, the hope we carry, it all adds up to something. Maybe not salvation, maybe not a happy ending, but something, a resistance, a refusal to give up, a middle finger to the apocalypse. We're not dead yet, and as long as we're breathing, we get to decide what that means. So here's my final message, my last broadcast as Night Watch: stay alive. Not just your body, your humanity, the parts of you that care, that connect, that hope. Those are the parts worth fighting for. The infected can take our cities, our infrastructure, our world. But they can't take who we are unless we let them. Be smart, be careful, but also be brave. Open the door sometimes. Let people in. Trust, even when it's terrifying, because isolation will kill you just as surely as the fungus. Maybe slower, but just as certain. And if you find yourself giving up, if the weight gets too heavy and you can't see a reason to keep going, remember this. Somewhere out there, someone is listening. Someone needs you to keep fighting. Someone is counting on you to be the voice in the static, the light in the dark, the proof that humanity isn't finished yet. Be that person, for them, for yourself, for everyone we've lost and everyone we might still save. The world didn't end with a bang or a whimper. It ended with a cough, but it doesn't have to stay ended. We are still here, still fighting, still human, and as long as that's true, there's a chance.